Damn, is this a road game or an away game? Jesus. John Cornyn from Texas, again, he's the handpicked choice of Mitch McConnell to participate or sabotage this bipartisan gun legislation they're supposed to be working on. Of course, so he shows up here at the Texas Republican Convention on Friday, and people were very upset about his participation in that potential legislation, which he's already said he's not really participating in that well. So it kind of doesn't make much sense. Let's go into some details of how this all went down and the reasons why they did this. So Senator John Cornyn, who's the lead Republican negotiator on the bipartisan gun safety package, told a home state crowd at the Texas Republican Convention on Friday that he had fought and kept President Biden's gun grabbing wish off the table, yet still received boos from the crowd as he talked about what the bill could include. Democrats pushed for an assault weapons ban. I said no, is what Cornyn said. They tried to get a new 3-week mandatory waiting period for all gun purchases. I said no. Universal background checks, magazine bans, licensing requirements. The list goes on and on and on. I said no, 1,000 times no. So in other words, John Cornyn shows up in front of this crowd and says, hey, you guys, I didn't do anything. I'm okay with your children being murdered. And they went, boo. Continuing on. He also said, I will not under any circumstance support new restrictions for law-abiding gun owners. That will always be my red line. And despite what some of you may have heard, the framework that we're working on is consistent with that red line. And I think he's right. But the thing is, they've already been built into this trough. The state party had just passed this resolution that condemned him for simply working on this legislation. So that started the whole thing there. So the convention was ready to attack as soon as this happened. Some more details. He said, we reject the so-called bipartisan gun agreement, read the resolution, which also said that red flag laws, quote, violate one's right to due process, and said those under 21 are most likely to be victims of violent crime. Again, so those two things, they're upset about the potential red flag laws and allowing 18-year-olds to purchase assault weapons. That's the two things they're upset about. Not the whole things about fortifying schools and giving more money so they can talk about mental health facilities all over the country, which they're not gonna do. They're upset about those two things. So more, the agreement currently being hashed out by Cornyn and other senators, including Democratic Senators Chris Murphy of Connecticut, a prominent advocate for gun safety legislation, includes providing resources to state and tribes to allow them to enact so-called red flag laws, expanding support for community behavioral health centers, closing the boyfriend loophole by keeping guns from unmarried people found guilty of violence against a partner, and funding for school security. And again, John Cornyn, before he got there, before they had the Texas state group talk about how much they hated him for even participating, he said this last Thursday. Senator John Cornyn told reporters that he had not abandoned the negotiations, but was returning to Texas amid difficulty reaching an agreement. It's called, he said it's fish or cut bait, is what he said. I don't know what they have in mind, but I'm through talking. Other senators in the huddle remained inside the room. So he's thrown tantrums, he's gone home. He said, I'm not doing this anymore. I cut off everything Joe Biden's gonna do. And the response, Dan, boo. There's literally no appeasing these folks.
I think John Cornyn just did a really uncomfortable walk into that entire situation, because when you look at these polls of the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of Americans are for most of these things that are listed that John Cornyn is saying, hey, these don't even touch my red lines. I'm like trying to work in the middle here because, okay, like some human level, can't we be upset with these things happening? I don't mean to give John Cornyn too much credit because he absolutely doesn't deserve it, but like he's well within like these lines, arguably not going far enough, very successfully, arguably so. But when you are in a room of Texas Republicans and Texas Republicans only, and that's all you're talking to, I have two things to say about that. One, you're going to get rocked if you are not like the most radical person ever. I'm pretty sure Dan Crenshaw wouldn't have even done much better at that point because the Texas Republican Party is so radical. They're taking away rights left and right, and they don't even see the irony in that. But also, I want Democrats to start doing this. I want people on the left to get into California Democratic, like state Democratic Party meetings, and to start booing every like mainstream centrist Democrat who's not doing anything for the state or anything for the country, because that would get the same like media attention on social media. It would get picked up places. And then you might have to see some kind of pushback here, or at least some narrative of pushback for what everyone talks about on TYT all the time, which is you have a Democratic Party that is not actually working for people or listening to people right now.
Oh, I would hope so. But the thing is, libs and the left wing of the party and Democratic side don't even necessarily do any of that. Every once in a while, you may see someone push back, but they get hit right away. And again, not to say that we should do it because of that. It's look at these radicals. And then they start getting shunned even when they're not doing any of this stuff. So if they actually do it, imagine the fallout. Imagine the establishment portion of the party talking about how radical these libs are and they can't do this. Which actually leads me to this. Let's go to graphic 8, because this tweet was from a reporter who saw this, and actually the senators, John Cornyn's official account retweeted this. So it seems to be pretty true. So after Cornyn was met with such hatred at the Republican convention in Houston, I'm told he said to a few people, "I've never given in to mobs and I'm not starting today." So defiance, I guess, not on stage, definitely not when he's getting booed. It turned into defiance once he left. He said, "I'm not gonna let this mob get me." We'll see, bro, we'll see. Because before you even got there, you were trying to appease the mob, but they're just not happy because there's something involved that would maybe save a few people's lives. And that's of no interest of any Republican anywhere in Texas. You're gonna have to learn that. Let's take this, what's going on, Dan? What's your thoughts?
No, I was just gonna say that the fact that John Cornyn, who was pretty much doing whatever Trump's bidding was and like advocating for that for his entire like time during the Trump administration, the fact that he isn't giving into the mob, laughable, ridiculous.
Come on, he's giving into the mob.